friends. Welcome to episode 64 of School Librarians United. I am your host, Amy Herman. This podcast is dedicated to the issues and challenges school librarians face every day. As a school librarian, currently in my 13th year, I found myself asking the question, where is the podcast that will help me do my job? I wanted a podcast which addressed the nuts and bolts of running a successful library program. I don't claim to have the answers, but I hope that this is a platform to share resources and exchange ideas. Now is a perfect time to mention that all the ideas and opinions expressed in this podcast by myself, by my interview guests, and the listeners who contact the podcast are our own and do not reflect those of our school districts. When incorporating research, I always make sure to cite my sources. So whether you are a novice or a veteran school librarian, this podcast has something for you. I'd like to extend a special welcome this week to listeners Julie in Virginia, Casey in DC, Amanda and Laura in Louisiana, Janelle in Georgia, Sarah in Oklahoma, Wendy in Massachusetts, and Karen in Connecticut, who wrote a very kind note. And she said, "Oh, Amy, I've been listening for quite some time, and I recently started tuning in much more often. I actually wanted to send you a note to say thank you for the podcast. I love it. It's so down to earth, so real. You think just like me, and I really can't say enough about it. It's inspiring and validating. Your pacing is perfect, and your topics are timely. It's spot on and makes me love my profession even more. So please keep it going." Thank you for reaching out. And I do appreciate when listeners give me some feedback, and it's not just the praise, but I got to tell you, when you put forth the effort to create a podcast, it oftentimes involves me and my laptop and my cell phone, and I really am just connecting with people on social media. And if I don't ever hear back from listeners, I sort of post these episodes and hope they land where they do and they mean something to the people who hear them. So I really do appreciate hearing from listeners because it does give me an idea that what I'm doing has some value. Lastly, I do want to say a very special thank you to Julie in Germany because she is responsible for introducing me to our interview guest today. I welcome you and all listeners to reach out with your feedback, questions, and episode suggestions, either on Facebook, Twitter, or at the email address schoollibrariansunited@gmail.com. And if you include a mailing address, your school address is fine, I'll be sure to send you a podcast sticker. And now for today's episode and my interview with Dr. Heather Moorefield-Lang. I'm so excited to share with you Dr. Moorefield-Lang. Welcome and many thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with listeners today. For some context, I think listeners should know exactly how this meeting came to happen. Your students find you so inspiring, and it was through one of your distance learners in Germany. Her name is Julie, and she reached out to the podcast a little while ago and suggested that I interview you.
And I am very excited to hear about that. She is one of our recent graduates, and I greatly appreciate her suggesting that I interview with you. And I'm very excited to talk to you today.
I think all of us as listeners can remember fondly back to library school. And for many listeners who are currently in library school, there are instructors who motivate us and excite us about becoming librarians. And we just can't wait to get into our libraries. And it's because of inspirational instructors in library school. The wonderful thing is, am I correct? You've never met Julie, who lives in Germany.
We have not met face to face. We have chatted online. We've talked via class. We've talked via class through WebEx. Mm-hmm. So similar to what we're doing here with Skype, that is how we have conversed. I don't think, though, because I've only been at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro for a little over a year and a half. So I don't believe we have met face to face. But to be quite honest, that's very common with most of my online students.
She put you in a very special category as being one of her favorite instructors, and you managed to do that from half a world away. So
that's awesome.
I think that's very telling. I did want you to brag for a minute. You got some lovely news recently, and
I did.
Would you like to tell us, please?
Well, I just recently, and this is not the first time, I received tenure at my previous institution when I was hired here at the University of South. I was hired at the University of South Carolina in 2014, and I taught there previously. And I had received tenure at the University of South Carolina. So when I was hired here at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, I was hired as what you would call an advanced assistant professor. Mm-hmm. And so I was given the opportunity to go up early for tenure. And I found out, or I received the letter, as it were, last week. This recording's happening in late February. And I received my letter for tenure here at UNC Greensboro just last week. So that's very exciting.
Well, it is exciting. And I know when teachers receive tenure, it's a big deal. And I know that there's a little, sigh of relief, and you can just go about your day and have that sort of validation that supports all of us in what we do every day. Let's start with your journey. Your teaching career began in middle school drama, and now you're a professor teaching aspiring school librarians at UNC Greensboro. Can you sort of chart a path as to how that all happened?
Sure. Actually, even before teaching drama, I was a professional singer and actor. And while I was, hence the voice that sounds like a radio persona. And I actually used to work in radio briefly as well. So when I was getting my undergrad, I went into theater education. I was also very interested in theater, teaching theater. I auditioned for various and sundry companies. I auditioned for professional positions with theme parks, different groups. But I also was interviewing for teaching positions. And I kind of went by, and I've gone this way many times in life, the folks who are going to offer me a job is the way I will go. And I was offered multiple callbacks for theater and acting and such. And I was offered 5 teaching positions straight out of college. And one of them was, I wanted to teach theater full time. I'm actually certified in theater and English, K through 12 theater and 9 through 12 English. And so with K through 12 theater, I was able to take a full-time middle school theater position. And I taught middle school theater for 5 years. And during that time, I looked at what other interests I had, whether I wanted to continue teaching theater. I always had a love for libraries. I had volunteered in libraries in high school. I had worked in libraries my entire time in college. And so I was I knew I wanted to get a master's, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I really was interested in library school. And so in 1998 to 2000, I got my degree in library science here at UNC Greensboro. And so once I got that degree finished, I took a library position, and I was a middle school librarian for 6 years. And even when I was a middle school librarian, I still taught theater classes as well, one course a day. So I taught theater as well as working in libraries. And the thing about the arts and theater, especially for me, have always created just this amazing foundation for me to be able to use when it comes to so many areas of librarianship and information science, for things like presentations, for things like storytelling, for book talks, for being able to create videos and to be able to work with technology, to be able to talk to people and to be comfortable with things like that. And so there's a lot of foundational pieces that I was able to take from my background in theater and even, some of like my work with radio and public speaking, and be able to use that in our field. But to move on forward, in 2000, started working in libraries, and in 2004, I decided to go and get my doctorate in education, and then I just continued moving into academia. I have a bit of a different background than some, but I actually have ran into quite a few students who have theater backgrounds. It's worked really well for them.
Well, and I know just even today, I was doing story time with my littles, and I've started now incorporating more ebooks because I can use the ebooks on my smartboard, which obviously creates not only does it create a much bigger picture for my students to enjoy, and they can read along the words, but it frees up my hands to give some gesture and into it becomes more performative. And the fun thing is I don't have a theater background, but I do like to do voices. And I know when I'm unencumbered, I don't have to hold a book and turn the pages. I can sort of tap on a screen. I've got the kids looking at the screen and I'm off to the side, but I can use my voice. I can use gestures. And I find that they're far more engaged when you can include, things like your voice. You can include gestures with your storytelling. But I do want to talk about storytelling because that's a class you teach.
It is a class that I teach.
That's wonderful. So I was curious, your Twitter handle is @actinginthelib. And I'm guessing that as a drama teacher, when you became a school librarian, and, you sort of talked a little bit about this already, but it really seems like it would lend itself so well to many aspects of working in the library.
And it did. It did. Coming up with acting in the lib, it was kind of acting in the library, acting in libraries. I actually used to have a website called Actin' Up. And so I kind of merged both of my fields into one with that Twitter handle that's now like 8 years old. And so, but it worked and not everyone, but that's for those who know me, they know that's my handle when it comes to Twitter. And so, like I was saying earlier, being a theater teacher and a performer, because I do still perform when I have time. I don't have a whole lot of time, so I get to do about a show or so a year. But when I have time, I still do perform. It's mostly community theater these days. But it's still just a really great creative outlet.
Are you, I now have to ask, what's your dream role? What have you enjoyed? Is that too broad a question? Do you prefer music theater? Are you?
I'm a musical theater gal, so I sing and I act. Dancing is not my strongest, but I do all right. I am an actor who moves, is what they define in theater. My dream role is the witch in Into the Woods. I have done Into the Woods now twice.
I have seen it. I love it.
Yes, the witch is still my role, and I'm still of an age that I can play it. Because there's some roles, I could say that I'd love to play, Rizzo in Grease, and I'm too old for that. So you get to a point where you're too old to play some of these roles, and but I'm still of an age that I could play, and I do hope one day to get to play that part. But there's also just new shows that are coming out, so I pay very close attention to what the new musicals are. And what's happening and keeping an eye. And plus, I'm also in an area, I'm now in Greensboro, North Carolina, and this is an area I'm kind of in a tri-city area, and we are just ripe with choice around here for theaters. I mean, it's just amazing, and I love it.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. I married somebody who loves theater, and that's oftentimes how we celebrate and spend time together. But my sons, for their senior trip, were going to New York to see a couple shows, and
that was my senior trip.
I'm very lucky. Our family, we enjoy theater a great deal, and so I seize on every opportunity to see shows. But so I think it's really fantastic. A large number of listeners are middle school librarians, and middle schoolers have the reputation, deservedly or not, of being incredibly challenging to teach. What do you tell your pre-service librarians who find themselves or anticipating to be working with middle school students?
Well, middle schoolers may have the reputation of being especially challenging to teach, but I also feel, and again, this is completely my opinion, so that and $5 will get you a coffee at Starbucks. But every level has their own challenges. And I also feel that every educator has levels of students that they may be more drawn to than others. So I had the option, or I had the experience to be able to work with high school students when I was a student teacher. Then a friend of mine, right when I graduated, a theater friend of mine, he was a teacher. He had a heart attack. He was okay. It didn't kill him or anything, but he was out of school for the last 6 weeks of school. and they needed a permanent sub. Well, I graduated with theater education, and they hired me to finish out the end of the year to teach his position for 6 weeks. And this was an elementary full-time theater teacher. So then I had 6 weeks to work with elementary kids full time.
What'd you think?
I realized very quickly that elementary school was not my jam. And that's okay. There are plenty of people that love their littles, as you described them. I, on the other hand, found that they were very huggy and sticky, and they really liked to, I had very long hair at the time, and they really liked to pet my hair. And I was like, this is just not my spot. This is not my place. And that's okay. We all have to figure out our location. High school worked really well for me. As I said, I was offered a full-time position with the middle school. The thing that I found with middle schoolers, challenging is one word, quirky is the word I use. They're finding themselves, they're finding their voice, they're finding their way to represent themselves in their stories. They're still very creative. They are at the age now that they can be given a task, they can work on their own. Even late elementary school can do that. And they're so creative. And they've still, what's the best way for me to put this? They still can, because I found some high school students that I worked with, especially my older ones, were already on a path, mind very set. Things were sometimes hard to change. Sometimes it was hard to win someone over. With my middle schoolers, I still could find them. I still could reach them. And I'm not saying high schoolers are lost or anything like that. It's just sometimes I found that it was still easier to talk and work with my middle schoolers. And I sometimes lost that in high school. On the flip side, I also know plenty of people who get into high schools and do amazing work working with their high school students, because none of us are saviors. None of us are saving the day or anything like that. We're just there to, do the best we can while we're working with our young people. And we learn so much from them in turn.
I'm curious. I've had very limited opportunities to teach teachers in PD, district PD, state PD, and teaching teachers. My own experience teaching teachers is that we tend to be a rather appreciative and friendly group. You made the jump between teaching middle schoolers to teaching adults, pre-service librarians and educators. Can you tell me about that jump? Was it a jump?
There was a bit of a gap in between. So I went from teaching middle schoolers to teaching college students. So in between when I graduated in 2008 to when I started teaching pre-service librarians, educators in 2014, I worked at Virginia Tech for 6 years. And so at that point, I was teaching college students up to doctoral students, still adults, of course. And I was also doing some faculty development. It was not that giant of a jump or a leap for me to teach adults. Also, I've been doing professional development in my schools for years. And I've been doing professional development at the city and the county and state level for quite some time. Mainly for me, I never really was a person who, I didn't talk down or base anything down from my middle school students. Probably I treated them more like adults. And so I don't think the change was any great big leap, because I just kind of talked to everybody exactly the same, whether that's good or bad. It is how I am. And so, which is another reason why elementary school is probably not the best fit for me. Telling 5-year-olds, talking to them the same way I talk to 50-year-olds may not work exactly the best for everyone.
I definitely would not recommend ever doing that. No.
Yeah, it's not the best. And so it's not been a big leap in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I guess it's worked fairly well.
Sure. I'm curious. You teach in the Library and Information Science Department in the School of Education. For listeners who haven't taken a look at your CV, like I have, could you tell us about the classes you enjoy teaching?
So typically when you are hired as a faculty member with a department at a university, there are a group of classes that you end up teaching. It depends on how large your department is and all of that. So you may end up teaching more than others. And it also depends on what type of college you're in. I am in what they would call a Research 2 institution, which means research and teaching are pretty equal in importance. Research, one institution is not what I'd say higher, but it's where research is more of a focus. I teach 2 courses each semester, and then my job description is pretty much 40% doing research, 40% teaching, and 20% service in the community, state level, national level, international level, to break that down. So just, to explain how my job works out. So I write and I publish and I do podcasts and I do, write books and I do all sorts of things, but then I also teach. I have 3 classes that I teach in particular to directly answer your question. Mm-hmm. One of them that I teach all the time, that's summer, spring, fall. That is a libraries and technology class, because that's kind of my area of expertise. Mm-hmm. I do a lot with technology tools, emerging technology, how they can be used in librarianship. I teach that for librarians from every background. So I'll have school, public, academic, special. I've had military librarians in that class. I've had publishers in that class. I've had a wide range. And it changes every semester, because I'm always talking about new technology, how it can be used, what's coming in technology, what's here, what's emerging, all that type of stuff. So that's one of my classes. I will probably teach that until the day I, leave, retire, or die, whichever the case comes first. And then I also teach a class quite often called the School Library, and that's a program class. That's how to essentially programmatically run a library. So we talk about your collections. You talk about challenges to a library collection. If someone doesn't like a book in your library, what do you do if a book challenge comes up? We talk about a wide range of things. We talk about facilities and staffing, and I'm trying to think of my syllabus at this moment. And then just this semester, I've started teaching storytelling, which is a class I taught at University of South Carolina, and have just started teaching this semester here. And storytelling is about the process of storytelling, but also the background of storytelling. I also have digital storytelling in that class. And we also look at genres of stories and how they are tellable. We also discuss the fact that there is no one story, diversity in storytelling, making sure that our students and our patrons are represented in storytelling, especially from young children, babies and toddlers up to teens, and how teens can be involved in storytelling and writing. So those are the 3 main classes I teach. I also I'm chair of the curriculum committee, so I help with the building of some of the new classes. I mentor folks on getting classes put into the university, things along those lines. But those are my main classes.
Preparing aspiring school librarians to go into the schools, support their communities, generating library collections and library programming. That's an enormously huge responsibility.
I mean, I feel that the huge responsibility is more theirs than it is mine, because they are the ones. I've been in their shoes. I've been the school librarian running the program, advocating for my school. What we're doing is we are building and offering the resources to prepare them to be ready, because we are graduating amazing people like Julie and many, many other peers who are out there just every single day, just, doing just amazing jobs in schools. I just got contacted by one of our librarians, and she asked me to come and speak they're doing a technology night. And her students are going to be offering concurrent sessions to the parents on how to do technology. And I'm kind of opening it on like cyber safety and technology security tools. And I'm not quite sure what all I'm doing yet. Truly, I was asked to do this yesterday. But they're having like a whole technology night where the kids are running it. And and she graduated last year. I've got so many amazing students who are out there building maker spaces in their libraries and fighting for, librarians in every library in rural counties. And we've got students from California to Germany, all across the world who, are fighting for every student to be fully represented in their library and in their books that are in the library, as well as having the technology and the access and the materials. So while we here, because I'm one member of the school library program, I'm also here with April Dawkins, Lori Sands, as well as Tammy Brewer, and the four of us. I mean, we're just hoping to give everybody the best tools for their digital toolbox, or their toolbox, as it were, to just be out there, to be ready and prepared to be just the amazing people we already know they are.
Yeah. I think I'll credit my instructors at Wayne State University in Detroit, because I remember, and this was a long time ago, I remember very well that advocacy was something that was hammered home. And I can guarantee you, when I was getting my teaching certificate to be a high school social studies teacher, nobody told me that I would have to fight like hell to prove that my job was essential, because nobody is going to cancel AP government. Nobody is going to cancel the civics class that's offered at our freshman level. So I didn't go into the workforce as an educator, a certified high school teacher, worried that something could happen to my job. But I got to library school, and the story was, you can never afford to become complacent. You will have to prove your worth every day. And I'll tell you what, I don't meet complacent librarians. Yeah. I meet rock star librarians. I meet amazing people who recognize that if anybody ever questions why we are in the building, we're not doing our jobs right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
We want to graduate rock star librarians, and even if and the term rock star, I feel lots of different ways about that. We already have amazing students who are coming out of here as just amazing librarians who really want just great collaborations with their peer educators to just really make a difference in their schools. And we are actually, and it's fabulous. We're doing very well in North Carolina. North Carolina is a state that recommends school librarians. Now we want to change that. We want this to be a state that requires, and we are pushing for that advocacy, but we're not quite there yet. But I mean, our students, 90% of the students that are in my final class, which is the one I was talking about, which is the school library course, they already have the jobs. By the time they graduate, we're at 100% job placement for our school librarians.
Wow.
We do really well in the other areas too, but school librarians, I mean, we're getting them placed, and people want them. But we want them even more, because there's a massive inequity right now between our rural counties and our urban counties. Our urban areas, they're doing very well. You'll see 2 librarians in a library, depending on where you are. Everybody's doing very well in the urban locations, but then you go to the rural spaces, and these rural counties, they're having to make choices. Mm-hmm. One, they shouldn't have to make a choice. You shouldn't have to choose between an assistant principal position, a counselor position, a nurse position, and a librarian. There shouldn't have to be a choice. We need all of those, thank you, but you need a librarian. And of course, I'm biased. You definitely need a librarian. But you need a nurse too.
It sounds like UNC Greensboro, you're doing a lot of things right. And I had an opportunity when I was cyber stalking you for this episode. It's just a little creepy. I got a chance to really look into your online offerings. And I know UNC Greensboro isn't alone in offering an online degree, something that was not available when I got my library degree. But I didn't realize that's a less expensive program. Can you brag a little bit about your online offerings? Because most of my listeners do not live in driving distance to your university.
No, we are 100% online. We do have a few classes that you would define as a hybrid. Mm-hmm. And hybrid would be, we've got a few folks who live nearby and would like to be here face to face. And so we have that option as well. We do have 2 new programs that we've just created. We've got a Bachelor's of Science in Information Science. That is face to face, but that's a bachelor's. Mm-hmm. And then we have a brand new MED in Instructional Science and Design. And that's starting in the fall. That's going to be online as well. So we have our program fully online, and it is fully synchronous. So that makes us a little bit different than a lot of the others. We do meet online. We have classes that are, it's like being face to face, but it's online. We've got full chats and breakouts and groups and everything else. And so like one of my classes meets on Monday, one of my class meets on Wednesday, that type of thing. And that's become, we're been really popular because of the synchronous part as well, because folks like that that live interaction with others in their field. I don't know where we are in ranking of cost, but I think we're the 5th or 6th most affordable library science program in the nation.
Wow.
So that's really nice. We have folks from out of state applying to our program because we're more affordable than their in-state program.
Right.
So that's the reason why we have folks from all over. And truly, I mean, in one class, I had someone in California. So at 2, my class meets at 5 or 5:30. So I had somebody joining us at 2:30 p.m. And I believe Julie was joining us in Germany at about midnight, her time. I think this time go around, we got someone in Tokyo. So we'll have folks even further, and so it's more accessible, approachable, user-friendly. And the other thing is that it's more accessible for so many people, because while there's the situation of distance, you've got so many folks who live 2-3 hours away, may not be able to make it to a location. It's also accessible for someone who has 3 kids at home, someone who has elder care, someone who has childcare, someone who has all sorts of different, we all have different situations in life, but you can still get this degree if this is something that you wanted. And we have folks who are in public libraries, interested in academic libraries, school libraries. School librarianship here makes up about 30% of the program, public's another 30%. And we've got folks who go into special and military, and then we've got our whole information science group as well.
Right.
So, we've got a wide range of people with all sorts of backgrounds, and the online program makes things very convenient.
That I love that. I think what a wonderful opportunity for you to, your classes are representative of people from all over the world. Want to take an opportunity to showcase your YouTube channel. I don't know how many college professors jump at the opportunity to showcase and feature curate a collection of tutorials online. And friends, I'll include a link in the show notes, but I really love that a college professor has created video tutorials for school librarians. Do tell us what inspired you to do this.
So I interviewed for a teaching position at the University of South Carolina in 2014. And during that interview, folks, I had been showing off some like cool technology tools, interesting teaching tools, online tools, blah, so on and so forth. And I said, these are great. If you were hired, would you be able to showcase these for like workshops? I said, sure, that's no problem. Do it all the time. And then somebody said, well, what if I wasn't here? How would I get to see your workshop? And I said, well, I could make videos. And so I started thinking about creating the videos. And first I thought, well, I could do a video of the whole workshop. And then I thought, well, who wants to watch a 30 to 45 minute video of an entire workshop? That sounds painful. And so then, because most people only want to watch short videos, if you start thinking about things that you watch online, if you're looking at a cat riding a Roomba, very short. If you're thinking about threading your brows, very short. If you're thinking about makeup tutorials, which none of my videos are remotely as popular as these types of things, but still very short. If you want to figure out how to change an air filter on your car, still pretty doggone short. And so I was thinking about an idea of short videos that each video focused on a particular type of technology tool. Now, I do have a few longer videos. I was commissioned to create like a top 10 reasons why your librarian is awesome video for the state of South Carolina. So that one's a little longer. There's some that are a little bit longer. But in general, it's I wanted it to be called Take 5 or Tech 5 after Take 5, but that was taken. Okay. So I went with TechFifteen, as in every video would be 15 minutes or shorter, but most of them are shorter than 5 minutes. I've been doing it for the last 6 years, 7 years. What am I up to now? Something like that.
Well, and friends, it's like a Khan Academy for school librarians. And I did want to just share, because I've had a chance to watch your videos. There are categories of videos include research skills, Google tools, making learning accessible, PD, student response system, and presentation tools. It's a treasure trove for anybody who's looking to incorporate more technology into their libraries. And P.S. You don't have to register for your class to watch them.
Oh, no, not at all. You don't have to register for anything. And the other nice thing is every video is closed caption. Every video is completely Creative Commons licensed, so you can download it, and they're also fully embeddable. So you can embed them into a newsletter or an email that you send out to your instructors. You can share them with anyone you want. And they're also fully accessible for other devices. So you can stand in line at Target and you can watch this on your phone. I don't know why you would, but anyway, you can. And so they're fully accessible across devices as well, because I wanted to make them as accessible as possible, which is something that's super important for me with technology.
Well, and friends, something that occurred to me just now, because it's very much like a flipped learning experience that we oftentimes use in the classroom with our students. And so what I thought, a lot of times districts, when they ask teachers to spend time allocated towards PD, the grade level teachers and the subject matter teachers, it's usually pretty straightforward how they're going to use their PD time. But our district will look at the librarians and say, well, do something and then tell us what you did during your PD time. It seems to me like any district who would like to impress upon their administrators what they did could use your videos as a launching point for some PD that they do for school librarians, because your videos are already sort of compiled together in a nice little channel, and you can watch them as a team. You can reflect on them as a team because, as you said, they're nice and short and compact and very focused. So when districts are looking to have PD, librarians could advocate for themselves, and rather than get thrown into somebody else's PD, which all too often happens, that, the librarians, we'll just go join the English teachers, or why don't you go sit in on the specials? Which is silly, because you put the art teacher, the gym teacher, the librarian, and the music teacher together for PD. It's a waste of everyone's time. So
now, one quick thing about the channel, it's getting a complete update because I've been provided some funding here at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. So it's getting a complete overhaul for branding. I'm getting a new introduction video, and I've got some plans for phase 2 next year hopefully with some instructions and some lesson planning and some other stuff. So I've got some plan. It's in the works, but I've got some potential plans. You heard it here first.
That was actually going to be another question. Are you planning to add to your collection of videos?
Oh, yes. I just added a new video last week. I had 2 YouTube channels to be exact, and now I've merged the other one into this one. That's where all the research skills videos came from. And my goal was always to have a new video a week, but I actually do have a full-time job. So I've had to, I try to do like 1 or 2 a month. I've been doing pretty well lately, but I actually have an entire list. I'm showing you my notebook. I have an entire list of sites right here that I need to be putting on to the channel.
When you think about technology, as a fellow librarian, I would have you using Google Keep for your list of episodes that you want to do on YouTube. When I started my podcast, I opened up my Google Keep and created lists that I would want of episodes to record. And so when we talk about technology working for us, one of the tools I use a great deal is Google Keep, because it gives me that kind of flexibility, and I don't have to carry around a notebook.
I have a video about Google Keep.
You do?
On the channel.
Excellent.
Yes, it's in Google Tools.
I'm very selfishly, I'm so excited to talk to you, because at some point I'd like to pick your brain, because I'm when I present at McCall next month, my presentation is Time for Tech to Work for Us, School Librarians. Yeah. And so rather than technology that we use with our student, it's going to be how does technology support us as in the job that we do. So, but yeah, Google Keep's definitely one of those.
Pieces on that.
Yeah, Google Keep's definitely one of those. What advice would you give to listeners who are contemplating enrolling in an online program?
So make sure that you are a couple of different things. If you are thinking about getting a master's or even a doctorate, there aren't that many doctoral online programs. Really take a look at your life and where you are right now. And is this something you really want to do? So that's the first thing, because I find that sometimes folks get into a program and it's like, oh, I wasn't aware. Just be aware. If you've got 3 kids under 5, not that I'm knocking it, and you just started a new school, and just take a look. Be aware. It's okay to not do it right this very moment. But if you're contemplating, if it's just a question about the online degree program, do understand that while online degree programs are incredibly useful, as in the delivery of the instruction is coming to you, it's you at your desk or wherever you like to sit. Some people like to watch the class while they're riding on their bike. It doesn't matter, at home. But it's the type of thing where it's more is on you. Mm-hmm. So it's not coming to a classroom for the 3 hours of of a master's program. There's so much that is on you now. Mm-hmm. So there's more of you to be in the class, be a part of the class, making sure that you're making the time, making sure that your family is aware of the time, because typically it is you at your house. I mean, sometimes folks do this where they work, but that's difficult too. We don't really recommend that. Don't use a school computer, don't use a business computer, because 1, you can't always recommend that's going to work. And 2, you need to rely on your own technology. So, know that a lot of this onus, the work is now much more on you to make sure that you set the time aside to get the readings done and the work done and the assignment done and get everything loaded up. My program, we are synchronous. So we meet every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day your class is. So we actually have a meeting time like a class where your tail would be in a seat. My former program, and I'm not knocking it, but my former program was asynchronous, which means I loaded my video up at the beginning of the week, and you had the week to watch your video, do your assignments, do your things, but it was all on you, the student, to make sure you did all the things. And it had to be done by the next week. Sometimes online programs are what they call module-based, where from my best understanding, I guess you could go through the modules at your own speed. And I used to teach a module class, and sometimes folks would wait to the bitter end to try to do 12 modules at the end of a semester, and there's no success there. You will not make it. So you have to be aware that, much more of the time falls on you, and just to be aware of you and who you are and what you're in your life.
Yeah, it sounds like students who would do well in a program such as yours need to be self-starters, and they need to be very proactive rather than reactive to, well, I didn't know what I was supposed to do sort of attitude. It's more of a proactive stance and really sort of have a good command of their personal time and be able to include this. A question just for the master's program, do you have a window of time when students need to complete the degree?
Typically with the master's program, and this is here, our students have a window. Okay, it depends. It's a little weird. So if you already have the job in North Carolina, you have 5 years to complete the degree.
Okay.
Here at UNCG, I think it's a little bit longer than that. I know for doctoral students, you have 10 years. And so I don't want to go on record because I'm not absolutely positive of the answer. Typically for a doc, you have 10 years to complete the degree. You can always request an extension. But I know, especially if you are someone who, we have quite a few people who have received the library position and they need to complete the degree to keep the job. You have 5 years. Okay. That I know. And typically, most of our students finish in about 2.5 years, 2.5, 3 years. I have some people who just burn it and they get done in 1.5 years or 2. Wow. And so most of those folks are not working full time, though.
Yeah. Well, and again, this is where we have to do some reflection. That potential students need to do some reflection and consider what all they can accomplish in the given time that they have. Dr. Moorefield-Lang, I cannot thank you enough. Before we let you go, I know a lot of listeners add the people we interview to their social media. I'd love for you to share with us where we can find you on social media. Just repeat it for everybody, because I really have been it's thoroughly delightful to watch and follow what you post on social media. So would you let us know before you go how we can follow you?
Sure. I think you're going to put some of the links in the show notes.
I am, absolutely.
So my Twitter feed is Acting in the Lib. It is ACTINGINTHELIB, Acting in the Lib. And then I have a YouTube channel. That's YouTube TechFifteen, spell out the 15. And then I have a website that is www.tech15.com. Mm-hmm. And if you look for me at UNCG, you can read more about me and my work. Probably the best way to find me that way is UNCG and my name. And you can always just Google me. I think that's the very first hit, or at least that's how my filter bubble finds me if you Google me in UNCG. But that's more like, my CV online, if you're ever interested. My Gmail is hmorefield@gmail.com. I have an Instagram, but it is not that exciting. And Twitter, when it comes to librarianship, is probably the best place to find out anything that's going on with me, because I post tech tools, I post presentations, I post cool information about the field. I love Doctor Who, so I post anything up about that. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of Schitt's Creek, the TV show, so I post stuff up about that. Whatever, I keep it fairly professional. But so that's me in a nutshell, and I love making new friends on Twitter, and I love hearing about technology, and I'm always happy to chat about tech. A lot of people get in touch with me and say, I've got this thing I want to teach, and I'm looking for a piece of technology or a tool to enhance. Do you got anything that does this? Mm-hmm. And I talk with people quite often about that.
Well, I think school librarians really are very helpful and supportive in that respect. And I can understand now, just from our brief interview, just what students find in you that is so inspiring. So I truly appreciate you sharing with us today, and I wish you well in your next semester.
Thank you. You as well. Take care, and I enjoy looking at and listening to your podcast. So best of luck as you continue on.
Thank you. I am so grateful that Dr. Moorefield-Lang was able to spend some time with us today and share out her expertise as well as information about her program, because I know that there are listeners out there looking to continue their education and their media certifications. If you found today's episode helpful, please share it out with your team, your PLN, and on social media. The topic of our next episode will be tech tools and McCall. And I will be interviewing attendees at our ISTE affiliate this week at our annual tech conference for educators. So I really hope you tune in. I will be sharing out the presentation I'm giving, and that is called Time for Tech to Work for Us. And we will be looking at technology and, quite selfishly, how it helps us do the jobs we do. And I hope you tune in.